This video is about how to achieve alignment using a DoView board. Alignment is crucially important because we've got to align our high-level outcome priorities with the projects or activities that we're doing within an organization. Have a look at the other videos for how a DoView board is set out, but basically we have this then pages which set out the logic, the high-level outcomes, because DoView boards are all about outcomes planning. And then we have the more on the how. So basically the high-level boxes, the this then boxes are what we want to happen in the real world. And then we have more of the things we're going to do. In this case, we have how pages for projects, for teams, for people, and for competencies. So let's have a wee look at this page here. So say this is how these pages work from this on the customer needs understood is on we're going these things. If this happens, then these things will happen on the other side. So if the customer's needs understood, we will end up with customers trust the service experience, etc. So let's imagine that we went through a process and we said, well, how are we going on these boxes? As we're into a new planning period, how are we going so far on these boxes? We can either traffic light them, or you can just ask AI to traffic light them. And then what we've got, we can show those traffic lights here as we pull these up here at the moment. So what we've got here is showing that this box here, don't worry about too much about the boxes, but that's happening. You know, we've got a green light for that. This has got these problems with this box, and there's some other problems with this box here. So then what we might do is we would then at that stage want to show our priorities on that. So we've prioritized this one here, it's an A priority in the next planning period, and this one's a B priority to get things done. This is where we really want to focus. We're okay about that, and we're not going to focus on the other things at the moment because we need to get these things done. Meantime, we have this page which is about our projects. So here's some of our projects: service access improvement program, etc. There's just a whole lot of projects there. So how are we going to establish whether we've got alignment or not? So we'll pop back to that overview page we were on a minute ago, and what we do is we go to page view and we say show vertical link counts from how boxes. So that's these ones on the this then box to the how boxes to check alignment. We want to check alignment, so let's make that happen there. So we go boom. So then what we've got here is a little number appears at the bottom, and this is the number of projects that are mapping onto that particular box in the higher level outcomes this then page. If we click on that, we can see the different ones, the different projects that are mapping onto that box, and we can open them up when we want to. So basically then, so we've got this mapping. So what we can see here, this is when we actually get the nitty-gritty of alignment, because what we're finding here, well, this is okay because it's a B priority and there's one project mapping onto that, and we want something happened about it, so we're quite happy about there is alignment. We've got alignment there. But if we look up here, this is an A priority, but where there's nothing actually mapping on that. There's nothing mapping onto that. So we will want to create some new projects and then map them onto this box because it's a priority box, and that's what we're doing here, mapping new projects onto the box to make sure that we're in alignment. We can do that like that. So then we've achieved alignment because we've now got some projects mapping, and we'd obviously make sure that those projects did map onto that. We've got a misalignment here, of course, because here in this case, this is a green. It's already been achieved, but we've still got quite a few projects mapping onto it. So we go back here and we may want to delete some of those projects from being mapping onto that. So we just go through there and we delete them. We'd obviously make sure that they're not happening, those projects, or those focus of those projects is elsewhere rather than it being on this box, which is no longer a priority for us. So this is the way that we achieve alignment. So now we've got good alignment. We've got basically projects mapping onto this one here because it's an A priority, projects mapping onto that, and none mapping onto that because we don't want any effort put into this at the moment. So one way, for instance, chief executive can use this. You just have this board to say, look, if anyone wants to do a project or an activity, if you come and meet, you've got to tell me how it's going to map onto our high level priorities at this point in time. Because if it doesn't, then in actual fact, we're not going to do that. And equally, if we go through to the projects page, and we can turn on a page view, we can see also this vertical links that shows alignment there. We turn that on there. And you can see along the top here, this shows the number of boxes in the this then pages that actual project is mapping onto. You see how that works there? There is another way when you click on these boxes, another way of drawing these connections from what's called a ghost. If we go back to that overview page, you can see that this is actually the project that's sitting there, and we can actually map that by dragging. We can drag those links there to put additional this then boxes that project's going to map onto. You can kind of get that, see how that works. So then if we go back to our projects page, We can continue with this, and this is a kind of a vertical structure where we look at alignment all the way through, because what this is now is showing on the bottom of this is the next this then page. Note on this then page, this is what's called a level 1 page. In order to see that, we've got to go back to our normal view, and we can see the level of the page. So you see it's a level 1 how page, level 1 how page. We can scroll through these. I'll just jump back to presentation view. We can scroll through these pages, and now we're on to another page, which is teams. This shows how those teams are mapping up onto the projects. And then we could move on to another page, which in actual fact shows us roles are mapped onto those teams. What we're doing here is we're achieving a situation where we can see that there's vertical alignment between the different layers of our organization, different layers of our activity. So that's what's called the vertical links within a DoView board. There's another type of links though, which are called cross links, and these are cross links. We turn these on in page view and you look at cross links there. This is on the type of board which is called, I'll just jump back there for a minute. This board does not have a level. So this how page does not have a level. It's outside that hierarchical concept of the different how pages. So these are cross-links. In this case, they're competencies, and you can imagine competencies could be mapped right across a whole lot of different levels of our organizational structure. So if we click on that, we can see the teams that these competencies are mapping to. We can also see the projects they're mapping to. We could potentially also see some of the, we can see how those things are mapped. So that is how we work in DoView to establish alignment. We're basically, that's not any more complicated than that. All of this is, we haven't built in words like project, teams, etc. These are just these how pages in which you can spell out this kind of modeling, but you can do it with all other. It's very flexible because we haven't locked it into these words like project. There's just basically, there's this then pages, there's how pages. These are the basic underlying pages which can be structured into an outcomes framework. But you can then build this for all different types of organizations. So DoView boards are designed to be extremely generic so that you can use them in any kind of setting, not locked into one type of phraseology, which limits the usefulness of the board across the wide range of applications you could use it. But it's very, very powerful. It's scalable. You can do this, and so you get a very rich picture, so you can be sure you've got alignment. Most other ways, if people say we've got alignment, you say, well, how? Tell me, show me exactly how you've got alignment. And at that moment, they often do stuff like saying, well, every project has a little paragraph at the top that talks about the outcomes it's trying to achieve. Compared to this, that whole approach is really quite inadequate. This is actually a grunty technical approach to actually making sure you've got alignment between your high-level outcomes. You could have the best outcomes in the world, the best priorities in the world. You could be executing projects perfectly at the output level where you're doing stuff, but unless you've got alignment, you're going to be wasting resources. So that's another one of the functions. As I said in the other videos, DoView boards enable you to answer the 20 key questions about any organization that you're either running or having oversight of, and this is how you do alignment. So you can find more about this at on the DoView page. You can see how you use a prompt to make these DoView boards, and there's many resources. DoView boards are an open source system which anyone can develop in any way they like, as long as they acknowledge that they're working with and they're using DoView boards.